PKH has a great question and says, whenever it comes to calculations and numbers, my mind switches back to my first language. Can you suggest some ways to help me with this problem? Now, I've noticed this in particular among some of my friends who are Chinese native speakers, and particularly one issue. Actually, my wife sometimes has this issue too. She's Chinese. So that would be the units are confusing, right? If you have one of something, then sometimes in some languages, the 1 equals a 10. For example, in Chinese, 1 is 10,000. So 21 would be 200,000. So 20 is 20, right? That's 20. But because 1 is 10,000, then it's going to be multiplied. And so the confusion comes from, I think, this base unit where numbers get big and you're not used to maybe counting in the same way, whereas in English, we would say if it's 10,000, we say 10 instead of 1. That's just a simple example. But that sort of thing can lead to a lot of, discomfort when it comes to calculations and numbers. And I think this is where repetition really helps. This is where we have to accept that knowing, can I say that's a KN right there? I just invented a new letter of the alphabet. It's called a KN, and it's written like this. There, it's called a KN, and it represents KN. Knowing isn't everything. And that is, you know how to say something, but when you're in a situation in real life and you have to express yourself, do a calculation, say a long number, suddenly it's like you don't know it, even though you do. If you really sat down and thought about it, you know it. But it's like you don't know it because you're in a pressure situation, because you have to think about the math part, and now you have to think about the math part and how to say the math part, right? Okay. So this is where building habits is absolutely key. Sometimes English is about just learning it and knowing it, and once you know it, that's fine. Like writing, using punctuation correctly. I always say this, if you're writing, once you learn the punctuation and how to do it correctly, you don't even really need to make a habit. You just know it now, and now you do it. Easy enough, right? But when it comes to this sort of thing where you have to think about the numbers and think about how to say the numbers, there you have to build habits. And the best way to build habits is to repeat. Repetition, repetition, repetition. So you've got to build exercises for yourself to drill this into your brain so that you can't not say it correctly. And that's probably going to be boring. It's probably going to be frustrating. But once you do it, it's going to get a lot easier. Here's how I would do it. I would write down the basics that you struggle with. Let's say it's the math part. Okay, so this symbol is called plus, but when we're doing the action, we're doing addition. And this symbol is minus, but when we're doing the action, we're doing subtraction. And this symbol is times, but when we're doing the action, we're doing multiplication. And this symbol, or this one, is divided. It's division symbol, but okay, let's say divided by, and we're doing division. So now if you have to say it, what are you saying? Well, you have this in your head, right? So 5 plus 5, or 5 times 5. The thing that you say usually in a sentence is going to be the first one. 5 plus 5, 5 minus 5, 5 times 5, 5 divided by 5. That's what you're going to say. Now, if you struggle with that, you have to get yourself used to just saying it a lot. So maybe go through for 5 minutes a day, 25 to 50 of these, and just say them. It sounds childish and silly, but just do it again and again and again and again and again if that's what you struggle with. A lot of people, though, once you know that and you built that into habits, that's fine. But a lot of people start to struggle when it comes to big numbers. Okay. Again, there, you just have to practice, build habits, and focus on repetition. So write down every day for 2 weeks, write down 10 to 15 big numbers and try to say them quickly and correctly. And if you do that for 2 weeks, it'll get a lot easier and you won't have to think about it so much, right? Maybe do half of them written down and half of them just in your head, because we don't always see things written down when we say them. Okay, so maybe we do like that. Maybe we do, I'm just writing down random things here. Okay, maybe like this. Okay, so I'll just do 3. Okay, I've just written down 3 random things. If I'm going to practice these, I want to make sure I know how to do it correctly. But again, knowing is the first step. Actually doing it, making it a habit is the critical one. So when you have 1 comma, then you're going to say 1,000. If you have 2 commas, then it's going to be million and then 1,000. If you have 3, if we had another one here, this would be maybe 4, and then we have another number here, then it's going to be billion, million, 1,000. And then if you have this point here, you actually just say point. Now, the nice thing after the point is that you just say the numbers. You don't have to worry about tens or 20. This isn't 22. That's just 22. And then between the commas, between here, between here, between here, it's just the simple number. You just say that. So 100, and by the way, if there's a 0 in the middle and then a number, often we'll say and there. And for the rest, we won't say and, right? There's a 0 between 2 numbers like this within a grouping of 3, of these groupings of 3, then you don't need to, then you should say and, otherwise not. So 105,314. 105,314. Now, if you're doing that quickly, 105,314. Boom, done, easy. Okay, now again, we just have these groupings of 3. There's 1, there's another, and this is going to be 1,000, that's going to be million. 1,386,000. Don't need to say and there. Again, you don't need and unless you have, within one group, you have a 0 in the middle. Then we'll say and there, 105. Otherwise, don't worry about it. So this would be 1,386,984.22. 1,386,984.22. Okay? Again, practice that a few times. If you need to go bigger, you can. I mean, if you never say billions, then maybe just keep it hundreds of thousands or millions. 1,412,140,713.14. It looks complicated, but it's actually very easy. 1, comma, billion. So it's 1, 2, it's the third comma, so billion. 1 billion. Then I just say 412,140,713.14. Okay. Fairly straightforward, right? So the key, I think, is just repetition. Once you build the habits, once they're strong, I don't think you're going to struggle with this. I suspect, I guess, that you know this stuff, but you just haven't practiced it enough. You haven't repeated it enough. So it's not about knowledge, it's about habits.